Neil leaves the hospital and steals a car, while Chris buys the tools they need, and Michael picks up Weingry in another stolen car. Tra had another task, to keep an eye on the car with the money. When the operations move into the final part, they put on masks, which will conceal their identity, and blocking the road, giving Michael a chance to ram the car. The collectors call for help, but the team is already blowing up the doors, and pulls out the guards. Chris inspects the car, taking the things they need. They realize that the police will arrive here soon, which is why they are putting spikes all over the street. Wangra does not like that. The guard does not follow his orders, not even realizing that they were concussed by the explosion, and they do not understand anything. Eventually, Wangra eliminates them. The team gets into the ambulance and leaves. The police try to chase them, but the spikes catch the wheels. They have to stop. To erase all the evidence, the squad destroys their car. After a while, Neil comes to Nathan. He knows a lot about money laundering. Inside the stolen envelope were over 100 million shares. According to their plan, they need to force the bondholder to pay the money so that they can give it to him. But they need to understand that the authorities have already got on their tail. Detective Vincent is leading the search. They collected all the stolen cars, but that's not enough. They were lucky, though. One man heard the gang calling out the nickname Shopkeeper. The gang is sitting in a cafe and figuring out the mistakes in their operation. Wangra says he accidentally eliminated the guard, which really pisses Neil off because it will force the police to search for them more thoroughly. Already on the street, Wangra gets new slaps. Neil was ready to kill him, but the police drive by on the way. They're waiting for the cops to leave. During this time, Wangra disappeared, and the search led to nothing. Chris returns home, and his wife says that he brought less money than he said. On this basis, they begin to quarrel, and he admits that he spent some of it on betting. Charlene tries to convince him to drop the case, which infuriates Chris even more, and he leaves. A new day comes. Vincent comes to the pawn shop. His head is their mole. The detective threatens to go to jail if he doesn't tell them the information they need, and then the man gives a tip where he can meet Neil, who communicates with Kells. He has information about a new case, a bank robbery in the city center. From there, money is distributed to smaller banks, and more than 10 million can be withdrawn. Neil thinks it's too risky. Then Kelsey says that he is an excellent hacker and will be able to disable the alarm system before the team enters the bank. When Neil returns to his house, he sees Chris sleeping on the floor. Neil calls Charlene and tells her where her husband is. Chris talks about family problems. Neil decides to ask if Charlene is cheating on him. Chris says no. But that afternoon, Neil saw Charlene leaving the hotel room with some guy and stopping the girl. She calls it a business meeting. Obviously, Neil doesn't believe this and asks Charlene to give Chris another try. Their next assignment will fix everything, and if Chris spends his money again, he'll figure it out on his own. In the late afternoon, Vincent arrives at the place he was told about. The new man learns the nickname Dodger and helps to find Michael. Moreover, his dossier is in their database. Neil is dating a man with whom they solve business issues. An armed man slowly approaches Neil, but Chris sees him and passes him to Neil. He immediately backs up, knocking down the man. Another bandit tries to escape, but Michael was standing at the exit, sending him to the next world. Neil no longer wants to cooperate with Roger and promises to kill him. That day, the police found their gang and recognized Chris, and Vanecrest hid a terrible secret from his team. He eliminates girls of easy virtue. A couple of days later, the team infiltrates the metal storage, and Chris begins to break into the safe. The police were watching everything from inside the van, but one man accidentally hits the body with his rifle. Neil notices this noise and asks the team to leave. Vincent lets them go because they don't get much punishment for hacking. Then they find Charlene's boyfriend and begin the interrogation. Neil is sure that the police have reached them and are tapping their phone. Now they will have to lie low so as not to attract too much attention to themselves. The problem is that Chris needs money, and he persuades Neil to complete the bank robbery. They come to the port to work out further actions. The police were watching this, and when the bandits left, they are trying to figure out what they want to steal. Vincent guesses that this is a trap for the bandits to check their surveillance. That's what happened. Neil takes pictures of every cop. Nathan collects information on them and transmits it to Neil, completing the scheme from the bank. A little later, Vincent catches Neil, who agrees to talk in private. Already in the cafe, Vincent admits that he does not like to kill, but he can eliminate Neil if it helps save the lives of ordinary citizens. Neil feels the same way. A new day is coming. The team secretly infiltrates the bank and prepares for the mission. During lunch, Neil notices Donald. They met in prison, and now he is on parole. They are interrupted by Trejo, who is sure that the police are watching him and will not be able to help them in the robbery. I have to offer Donald a place on their team, who immediately agrees. Now there's nothing stopping Donald from bumping into his boss. Day X arrives. Michael, Neil, and Chris break into the bank, and while Neil puts on the mask, Chris neutralizes the guard. Neil tells people that none of the workers will lose their money because of the insurance. They need to sit still, and then everyone will remain unharmed. The police received a report of a bank robbery. Michael sits down next to Donald with his bags full. Neil sits down next, but Chris notices a policeman and starts shooting. The police have to respond, and some police officers also die. And while Vincent was checking on his friend, the bandits were trying to leave, but they couldn't get far. The cars are out of order because Donald was killed, and there were new police officers in front. The bandits run from car to car, not forgetting to eliminate the police. The fire was too serious, and one of the bullets hits Chris. Neil picks Chris up and helps him move to a safer place. He even manages to turn around and shoot at his pursuers. The team steals a car and drives away, leaving Michael alone, and he dies. There's a report on what happened on TV. Donald's girlfriend is shocked by his death. Charlene is also in shock. Chris is lucky. They have a medic who is ready to take out the bullet. She also punctured her collarbone. He's going to have to stay here and wait for Neil to pick him up. Neil thinks Treka turned them into the police. He breaks into his house, finding the floor of a living fuck. It turns out that it was Vangra and Roger who forced him to contact the police and threatened his wife, but even when he obeyed their orders, they still eliminated her. Then Neil goes to Roger and asks where Vangra is hiding. Roger answers, I don't know why he gets a few bullets. At the same time, Charlene and the child are taken to the police. As her boyfriend is cooperating with the police, they ask Charlene to help them, and if she stays silent, she'll get involved. Neil returns to his house and asks the girl to leave. She guesses that he is a robber and tries to escape, but he catches up with her and gives her money. Neil then receives fake documents from Nathan. He asks how Chris is, and Nathan says he's gone to see his wife. It was a prepared trap, but since Charlene did not want him to be caught, she suggests that it is dangerous here, and Chris leaves. Charlene says it's not Chris. The police on the other side of the street stop him and check his documents. He gives them a fake, which is why they let him go. Neil leaves town with his girlfriend, but Nathan ruins everything. He found out where Waingo was now. I have to leave the girl and go after the traitor. A fight begins, followed by elimination. The police have already surrounded the hotel. Neil runs off in the other direction, leaving the girl. They run out to the airfield where the plane lands. The light from the headlights betrays Neil, and Vincent manages to react, causing some damage. The film ends with a scene of them shaking hands. Well, we will be glad to receive your like. We'll be back very soon. While